Welcome to the Evergreen Woods Podcast, Episode 3. Today we have Ernie Bush with us, giving us a small tour of New York's hidden gems.
Hi, my name is Ernie Bush. I'm a resident at Evergreen, and I came from Staten Island, New York. Spent most of my life in New York, and I love the city, and I would like to tell you a little bit about it, particularly places that you don't know. Now, as you probably know if you know me, I spent part of my early retirement giving tours around New York. During that time, I found many interesting parks and museums. I would like to spend some time telling you about them. Many are single subject and unique. One of these is the Irish Hunger Memorial at North End Avenue and Vesey Street. This memorial is part of Battery Park City. It is dedicated to the Irish famine of 1845 to 1852. It is set on 1/2 acre of winding paths and inscribed walls, as well as an original cottage brought from Ireland. The perimeter is surrounded by a stone wall with inscriptions from Irish letters, newspapers, court records, recipes, and songs. These winding paths lead to the top of a hill from which you can see a panoramic view of New York Harbor. Along the paths are native Irish flowers such as heather, wild Irish yellow iris. The space was designed by Brian Tolley and gives the impression of being in Ireland and to remind us of not only the Irish famine, but also today's present hunger. It is a small place and should take well under an hour to explore. Okay, another one of these unique places is the How Mai Bird Garden. One of the unique places in New York is the How Min Bird Garden. This is located in Delano Roosevelt Park, just south of Delancey Street. While not strictly a park, it is a gathering place for a group of Chinese men and their birds. These birds are imported from China and are famous for their singing. Each bird has its own repertoire. Those with large repertoire are, of course, the most valuable. Their singing is like a musical dialogue, chirping, warbling, and thrilling in their cages. The garden is open only to members of the How Min Club, although passerby are allowed to sit on an adjacent wall and enjoy the singing. How Min birds are small with russet brown feathers. How Min translates into painted eyebrows, which refers to the white circles around their eyes. Amazingly, their singing can drown out the noise and tumult of the surrounding streets. The Chinese Scholar Garden, part of Snug Harbor at 1000 Richmond Terrace, Staten Island. In China, it was traditional for the emperor to have a scholar in residence to advise him. This scholar and his family lived in the palace. The garden is meant to replicate one of these residences. It was inspired by the Ming Dynasty. It is meant to convey infinite peace through a series of courtyards, ponds, pavilions, and waterfalls. Harmony is achieved through opposing concepts such as light, shadows, cratered rocks, and smooth pebbles, splashing waterfalls on still ponds, and through the quiet of the garden versus the clamor of the surrounding streets. The garden was created by a group of artisans and imported from Zhoushan, a city famous for its gardens in China, in the late 1900s. Many items such as pavilions, roof tiles, and bridges were made in Zhoushan and imported. The Gardens of St. Luke's in the Field at 187 Hudson Street. The Garden of St. Luke's in the Field is part of St. Luke's Church at 187 Hudson Street. The garden itself is surrounded by a brick wall which provides peace, quiet, and privacy. There are shady benches surrounding a large apple tree. Depending on the season, you can find magnolia, roses, or even lavender in the fall. The high wall surrounding the garden gives it a microclimate much like the Carolinas. You can also find figs, rosemary, and pomegranates. Set in the heart of Greenwich Village, It is often used by the villagers as their private garden, to come contemplate in solitude or to read a book in its quiet shade. The garden gives the impression of being in a country village rather than the bustling metropolis of New York. I hope you've enjoyed what I've just told you. I have several other places I would like to tell you about in the future. Not all in Manhattan. They're in the old 5 boroughs. And I want to thank you for listening to me. And hope we'll get together again.